After a while, it transforms into a terrifying dragon. Everyone is terrified to see it and wonders what is happening to that earth dragon. It looks like a demon from hell. Everyone knows that it has been boosted by Chen Tianjai's teammates. This has obviously increased its strength, and it has become more dangerous than before. Everyone knows that the princess came from Taiji Nation, so according to them, the prince's powers and skills must be very strange. Everyone is guessing that maybe Lu Fan will bring out his dragon now. Everyone is very excited to see the fight between the two dragons. Within a few moments, he transformed into a terrible monster and stood in front and started roaring loudly, and his eyes started glowing. Seeing him, Jia Ying immediately comes into action and takes out her sword. This sword is known as Heavy Crushing Sword, which is of epic quality, and this weapon is of level 24. The full range of the sword deals 240% physical damage and spreads 24% damage in the surrounding area. And then she prepares her second sword at this time, which is known as Blood Destroyer Sword, which is epic quality weapon level 24. It breaks armor and ignores 32% defense of the target, while inflicting damage. Agility sword speed increases by 42%. Lu Fan thinks Jian Ying is moving to attack, but then Lu Fan signals Jia Ying to stop and says, "Jian Ying, I can handle him. Don't forget our bet." Hearing this, she gets shocked and says, "But that dragon is very powerful, so I want to move to help." On the other hand, the demon looks up to the sky and starts roaring loudly. But Lu Fan looks at him and says, "I have seen this skill before." Lu Fan says, "I know how to make the body bigger by using pain as a price." Princess Jinju at the same time orders Chang Taiyagi to kill Zhao and take revenge on him. Chen was already very afraid of him, but he still replies that I understand, because his dragon is now stronger and bigger than ever. Princess Jinju looks angry and then decides at this moment that she will snatch her tomorrow's dragon and tells Lu Fan to call your tomorrow's dragon if you don't want to be crushed. The dragon stood in front of Lu Fan and roared loudly, tearing the ground apart. Lu Fan was still standing in front of him. The princess laughed and looked at Lu Fan and said, "Is your dragon strong enough to conquer the earth dragon?" Suddenly Lu Fan raises his hand and cold air starts coming out of his mouth. Lu Fan uses Ice Dragon Rage, which is called Ice Dragon Rage. By using it, a black explosion surges and damages the target area, and adds a slow and steady effect. The skill's damage duration and area can be changed according to the casting time. At the same time, the dragon freezes due to the cold ice and roars fiercely. Here both the princess and Chen are surprised to see this sight and say, "Why am I feeling so cold suddenly? How can the temperature drop so suddenly?" And then the princess says, "Is this Lu Fan's dragon? It is much colder than Chan's earth dragon." And then she realizes that this is not right. This is an illusion, not a real dragon. This must be a person's magic skill. She wonders in her mind if Lu Fan can use both physical attack and magical skill. Lu Fan takes out his sword at the same time and holds it in his hand and closes his eyes, and says, "Your strange magic has actually increased the powers of the earth dragon more than mine." And then he opens his eyes and says, "But do you think your great powers can crush me?" And then he quickly runs towards Princess Junjunu and says, "Do you want to take my black dragon?" The princess gets very scared seeing Lu Fan coming towards her. And then he quickly runs towards her and says, "You are not worthy to take my black dragon," as Lu Fan attacks the princess. Suddenly Chan appears in front of the princess and takes Lu Fan's attack upon himself. And then he signals the princess to be careful this time and looks at the dragon and orders the dragon to attack. Hearing Chan's command, the dragon starts roaring loudly, and then suddenly a terrible energy starts coming out of its mouth. But Lu Fan immediately takes advantage of the opportunity and jumps into the air, and looking at Chen, he thinks what a loyal servant he is, who saved Princess Jinju's life without caring for himself. And then he looks at the dragon. The dragon starts attacking from all sides. And then he looks at the dragon and says, "If that's the case, then now see the magic of the dragon," and then he raises his hand at the same time. And a round shape starts glowing in his hand. In fact, it is the power of the roar of the Blue Dragon King. Using it releases a tremendous shark web forward, causing heavy damage, and has a paralyzing effect, and subsequent attacks have 20 layers of power attribute. Each attack reduces 1 layer, which has a 20% chance of paralyzing the target. As Lu Fan uses the power of the Blue Dragon King's roar, Chan's mouth opens and his dragon starts screaming badly. All the people are surprised to see this scene, that it is funny. Lu Fan has activated a new magic again. And then some people say that I can see it now. This is not an ordinary magic, but a rare dragon magic. First of all, he tanked the dragon physically, then bombarded it with magic, and still hasn't summoned his dragon. And then this guy points his finger and says that Chan's winning streak is about to end now. Chen's dragon was getting badly injured. Seeing this, Chan thinks in his mind that how is this possible? He thinks in his mind that we both are going to tame the dragon, and why is there such a big difference between us? The dragon falls on the ground and Lu Fan goes and stands in front of it. And then he says that since the beginning of the war, I was thinking, why didn't I use any other skills except my dragon lens strike? Seeing this, the prince says, "Chan, what are you doing? Hurry up and order the earth dragon to continue fighting." Lu Fan stands there with his sword in his hand, and his sword starts to glow. And he says dragon lens strike and dragon bank strike are slightly different. But that's because our weapons are different. Basically, they are the same skill. Why don't you use dragon art or dragon encouragement? Seeing this, Chan thinks to himself that dragon's lens is dragon encouragement. Could it be that it is his initial skill? The prince looks at Chen and says, "You are talking nonsense. You are just like Hongtai. You remember you swore to take revenge on Lu Fan for me, and now you are not doing so." Here Lu Fan takes out his dragon sword, and his sword starts shining. Lightning is seen all around. Lu Fan looks at him and says that it seems that the Earth Dragon contract has not exposed all your skills. Why don't you use them? Because you don't have them, or else you should give up. And then Lu Fan explains to Chen that there is no chance of you winning. We are going to tame different types of dragons. On hearing this, Chen gets angry and says that now stop it. Lu Fan once again tries to convince him not to fight and says that I do not have any deep hatred for you in my heart. And you do not need to sell your dignity to become his slave, nor to become my enemy. Here the veins of Chan's eyes were visible. His eyes had become red. Now he was very angry, and he says that's enough. Not only have you prevented me from ascending to the position of the strongest dragon knight, but you also have the audacity to lecture me about not having self-respect. And then he looks at the princess and says, "Princess, I will fulfill my vow as your knight, and I remember my vow." And then he says, "Princess, give me the promotion. I will risk my life to show this inferior person the consequences of insulting the princess." As he says this, the Diamond Princess starts smiling and says, "I will definitely fulfill your wish." And then she points her strange stick at him and says, "This is your last chance, Chan. Now you have to win." Then suddenly a terrifying energy appears around him, and all his hair stands up. And then he says, "Yes, I understand." Lu Fan looks at him and says, "Why do you swear allegiance to someone like Jinju? You don't know her true nature. She is really not a good woman." Then suddenly we see that Chen starts to transform into a ferocious dragon, and he says, "What do you think? I am nothing without the princess." To become a high-class person and take revenge on the princess. And then his face is seen. He was looking like a terrible monster. His eyes start to glow. The princess was standing right behind him, and she says, "Now you kill Lu Fan for me." Chen at the same time moves his hand to attack Lu Fan. But a strong aura appears around Lu Fan. And then he takes out his dragon sword at the same time, and says, instead of saying, "You are disgusting, I feel more pity and sadness for you," and then at the same time a thunder sound is heard all around. And Lu Fan quickly runs towards Chan, and then he uses the power of the wind spirit. Using this power gives the blessing of the wind spirit, which increases agility by 35%. And then seeing this, Chan gets very scared. He does not understand what is happening. And Lu Fan uses Dragon Pack Strike at the same time, and Chan flies into the air and falls to the ground. Lu Fan releases the Dragon Blue Dragon Roar skill, and after that the attack increases the power attribute by 20%. Adds layers, which reduces 1 layer with each attack. There is a 20% chance of paralyzing the target, and the remaining power attribute attacks 9 layers. After this, Change falls on the ground and starts apologizing. Meanwhile, the princess gets very nervous seeing this scene. Tears start coming from her eyes. Friends, this chapter ends here. To watch the next chapter, subscribe to the channel and press the bell button so that you can watch our video first.